Hello, my name is Aaron Balke, and I'm excited to announce a update for the GBA Emulator for Game Boy, Game Boy Advance, and Nintendo DS. The major piece of news for this update is that the GBA Emulator now has a cycle-accurate Game Boy Advance core. I say that with about 40 asterisks next to it. Most subsystems are now cycle-accurate. The only exception is graphics and the pixel processing unit. There weren't any major developments or research done in order to get the GBA Game Boy Advance core to be cycle accurate. Most ideas and logic come from the Nanoboy Advance, another really good and really amazing Game Boy Advance emulator. Most ideas came from that one and were built upon and changed and modified. So massive thank you to everyone working on Nanoboy, Mere, and Gloria, and everyone else who's worked on Game Boy Advance emulation research and development. Because of GBA's Game Boy Advance emulation being cycle accurate now, there is a ton more tests and a ton more ROMs that are able to be played accurately. When it comes to tests, the AGS cartridge test is now passing, the Hades test suite is now passing, and the timer tests of the GBA test suite is all passing now. I believe this selection of tests, only about 3 or 4 other emulators pass according to Emulation General Wiki. Additionally, the classic NES series is now playable on the GBA emulator. These are NES games that Nintendo emulated on the Game Boy Advance, and they're quite sensitive, so being able to run the original NES Legend of Zelda or Metroid on this emulator is a massive achievement. While this is a massive milestone for GBA, it is important to note that there still is a ton of work that has to be done, especially with graphics. There's a ton of bugs when it comes to that, and other minor accuracy improvements that need to be done. In other news, the Game Boy, Game Boy Color, and Game Boy Advance emulators, you are now able to boot from the Bootrom or the BIOS, as opposed to just directly booting into the game. With this feature, it now also opens up the door to run DMG original Game Boy games on Game Boy Color emulation. This allows the compatibility palettes to be used, so it adds just a hint of color and emulates what Game Boy games would look like on the Game Boy Color. And also, vice versa, you can try running Game Boy Color games on original Game Boy emulated hardware, and usually what you'll see is some sort of warning saying, hey, you can't play this is a Game Boy Color game. In other Game Boy Advance news, there is now real-time clock and solar sensor support for compatible ROMs. I believe it's Bokai, where you use the solar sensor to kill vampires. That game now is playable on GBA. And the other piece of news is inside GBA's options and settings, key bindings and controller bindings have been changed. Originally, you had to type in what the name of the key or the controller button you wanted pressed. Now you no longer have to do that, you just have to press the key you want connected to that input and it will automatically insert it. So you don't have to manually type out the word enter if you want enter to be connected to a key binding. You just press the enter button and it will connect it. So that should make key bindings and controller bindings way easier to use. And the plan moving forward is to add some sort of accuracy improvement to the DS core of GBA. I'm not sure if cycle accuracy is possible, especially with the JIT compiler. At least add some sort of accuracy improvement to the DS core, because right now graphics and audio is getting a little messed up because of how inaccurate it is. So that is the plan moving forward. And that is the newest update for the GBA emulator. Thank you so much for watching, and have a good one.